you can call 501-399-3420. That's 501-399-3420. Also, the City of Little Rock presents 2023 Summer Youth Employment Opportunity. Summer Youth Employment Opportunity, SYEO, for Little Rock students between the ages of 16 and 21. It's paid summer employment, including training for up to 6 weeks during the summer months. SYEO provides training on job readiness, career exploration, financial literacy, and opportunities to continue educational and social growth. How to navigate as in the world of unemployment. The world of employment is a great opportunity for you. And also, Super Saturday. Super Saturday, file your taxes for free and more. It's going to be on Saturday, February 18th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The location is in Little Rock, Dunbar Community Center, 1001 West 16th Street. You can call 501-406-6000 for more information. And so you have free legal assistance there also, estate planning, simple wills, powers of attorney, advanced directives, beneficiary deeds, record sealings. Now for the record sealing, there's an appointment. You have to make an appointment, and you can call 501-406-1551. That's 501-406-1551. Plus, there's going to be free health screenings, blood pressure, blood glucose, mental health services, voter registration, and says fast and easy, ages 8 plus. That's for the vote. To learn more about our free tax assistance, visit southernpartners.org/taxes. That's southernpartners.org/taxes. And also, just want to remind everyone that Arkansas Community Association is still doing free taxes here at 2101 Main Street. To get an appointment, dial 501-376-7151. That's 501-376-7151, or stop by the offices at 2101 South Main Street here in Little Rock, Arkansas. The zip code is 72206.
Okay, well, I also have some announcements. Want to let you know that a couple of the announcements that Toney just made are on my Facebook page as well, and they will be populating all. I guess I need to pin them to the top, but there are some that are going to come there's one that's going to come at 10 o'clock, there's one that's going to come at 11 o'clock. Just trying to space them out to make sure that you are not overwhelmed with too much information happening at one time. But we're trying very hard to make sure that you are aware of the opportunities, particularly those around being able to make bids for the services that you can get paid for by the city to offer to the community for free. So those are showing up on my own Facebook page. So here's one announcement to make: the 5th Division warrant amnesty. Do you have any outstanding warrants in 5th Division Circuit Court? If you answered yes to that question, you may qualify. What do you need to do? Call 501-340-8546. 501-340-8546 and leave a voicemail with your name and contact information. You may also send an email to kamills@pulaskimail.net. That's K.A. Mills, MILLS, at PulaskiMail.net. So the warrant amnesty is Friday, March 17th at 1:30 p.m. And this is an opportunity for persons who have active warrants in the 5th Division only. And this event is made possible by Judge LaTanya Honorable. So again, on March 17th, 2023, 1:30 p.m. You can take as part of this opportunity to participate in the warrant amnesty. Again, that number is 501-340-8546. Call and leave a voicemail on that number. Also, please join us for Take a Teacher to Legislature Day. That's Wednesday, February 15th, which is next Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. at the Arkansas Capitol, the first floor in the lower rotunda. We will attend meetings with Senator Jane English and Representative Denise Garner. We will also attend a Senate Education Committee meeting together. Again, that's next Wednesday, February 15th, 8:30 a.m., the Arkansas Capitol, first floor, lower rotunda. It is Take a Teacher to the Legislature Day. I also want to remind you that on this Saturday, February 11th at 7:00 p.m. at the New Deal Gallery located at 2003 South Louisiana Street, we are having our Black Love event. We've got 5 conversationalists: Jet Butler, Victoria Mays, Tamara Thomas, Harmony Matthews, and Jessica Hunt. We're going to have a conversation about the impact of white inhumanity on Black love. It's constant attack on Black love and what that looks like, feels like, how that is unfolding in front of us even now, and what we're going to do about it, what we propose. And so we're looking for you to have that conversation with us. We also have Black artists from the local community. We will have our art displayed in the space. You will have an opportunity to view the art. We have an opportunity to purchase the art. And all of that is made available to you through the Ozark Living newspaper. And this is a pay as you can, pay what you can event. So if you cannot pay anything, you are still welcome to come. If you are able to pay $5,000, we accept it at the door. It does not matter what you have in your hand. We are willing to accept whatever that is. And then finally, don't forget that we have the Legacy Lounge at 4:00 on Friday, Domino's in the space. And then at 10 o'clock, they've got the night party. So you got a lot to do on Saturday, February 11th. And then finally, I do want to remind us that Marquis Hunt, Mr. Mood, will be on Community Voices as our guest on Tuesday. That's February 14th, on Tuesday, February 14th. So look forward to that conversation as well. And I think that those are all of the announcements that I have for today.
Okay, that was as they say, a plethora of announcements.
There's a lot going on.
It is. There's a lot going on. And also just want our listeners to know, phone lines are open 501-433-0088, 501-433-0088. There are still some bugs in the phone system. So if you call in, we can hear you. If you don't hear us, we can hear you. So just go ahead and make a comment or ask a question, and then we will do our best to answer it for you or comment, talk about the comment that you had. So Denise, you're right. There's so much going on, around the world and in this country. You have the earthquake in Turkey and Syria. You still have the war going on in Ukraine. You have the upheaval in Peru. You have the issues in Brazil, and and then you add into the fact you have this new General Assembly, this new legislature, this new governor who is perpetrating violence against public education. So you have all this going on. And before we get into that, I do want to say this. Great shout out to Arkansas community organizations, Arkansas Renters United. They have been pushing to see changes at Big Country Chateau. They did an action at City Hall.
last week. Then they did another. They showed up in the space of the city director, city board meeting on Tuesday. Had some residents speak. Had some who live in big country chateau. And the Mayor Frank Scott Jr. Declared there was an emergency at Big Country Chateau and got the city attorney Tom Carpenter involved. And now the owners of Big Country are now being called to court. They're served their lawsuits. Tim Griffith, who is now the new attorney general, he's involved, and they're actually starting to get some action going. There is an emergency order to try to find housing for these residents and everything. And I just want to just thank Arkansas community organizations and Arkansas Rangers United for just not letting go of this issue. But there was a comment made by one of the residents that said, "Hey, this has been going on for 20 years, and now you get to, once it gets to this place where it's just deplorable, now you want to do something, but you should have been doing something a long time ago." And also come to find out that the city dropped the ball also, because code enforcement, which is there to ensure that these that management comply with the codes and regulations of the city and taking care of this property. Code came and were like, well, we just took their word that they were going to make these changes. We took their word that they were going to do these improvements. We took their word. And I'm like, okay, so you took the word of these owners that they were going to make these changes, but when it comes to individual residents, you don't take our word. If you tell us we have to do something, we got to get our car off the street, or we have to cut our grass, or we have to do something, you coming back to make sure we do it. And we can tell you all day, we're going to do it. You don't take our word. So here is a company that has proven to be a liar. But as an individual taxpayer, if I said, well, I'm going to do it, you automatically think I'm lying, and you don't even, give me the benefit of the doubt. So I thought that was interesting how all that played out, but it looks like there's going to be some movement, and I'm happy and so grateful for this, for those residents who had to endure so much. And the only thing that, the one thing that really bugged me about this whole situation. So once the city board got involved and they want to make these moves, they actually went out to Big Country Chateau, and they started going through every apartment. And even those that were locked, or even those that had boarded up, they went inside. And there were people living there that they weren't on the rolls, or they weren't registered as renters, and so they were forced to evacuate. But some of those residents, they had this paying rent because nothing was getting done. There was, they were complaining about issues with mold and mildew. They were complaining about issues with rodents and roaches, and nothing was getting done. So they said, "Hey, I'm not going to pay my rent," but they didn't move. And so I thought that was, in a way, that was unfair. And to me, that those residents who were forcibly, and this is what the report said, they were forcibly removed by the police. And to me, that's adding violence on top of violence. And to me, there should be some way where they should be compensated. I don't know. I have to check further. And if anybody please call in and let us know. I don't know if they look for housing for those residents. Did they look to put them up in hotels? Did they just put them out on the street because they weren't registered? They should have looked to see have these individuals paid rent forward. And if they were paying rent until all this stuff happened, then I think they should be compensated, or they should get the same respect as those who may be on the roads and get some some housing, whether it's another place to stay or whether it's hotel. So I think that's something that should be looked into. What do you think about that?
I was thinking about, we talk so much about how Arkansas doesn't have a law of habitability, and it's the only state that doesn't have one. And I know that there are some nuances around that statement that some people can speak to, but I'm working in the housing department right now. That doesn't have one, and it's just amazing to me how I will go in to inspect an apartment and I will say, well, this does not pass inspection because blah, blah, blah. And so I'm talking to the property manager and I'm expecting the property manager to make these changes in order for me to be able to allow my client to move in. And the manager will say, well, we can't hold the apartment until you pay the deposit. And I say, I'm not paying the deposit until you make the changes. And they say, well, we're not going to wait for you to give us a deposit because somebody else will rent it. And I'm saying to them, I'm asking them, why would you rent the apartment to somebody else when it doesn't pass inspection? But if a person is willing to pay for the apartment, then they're going to rent it regardless of the condition of it. And so I'm trying to figure out, how do we get people, especially people who are living under duress, right? They're trying to get off the street. They're trying to get to a different situation. They're trying to move out of a big country chateau situation. And so they're desperate for housing, so desperate that they are willing to not have hot water, so desperate that they are willing to have holes in the floor, so desperate that they are willing to have the unsanitary conditions because they are looking for a roof over their heads. We're trying to figure out, how do we mobilize those people to say, wait a minute, we have the power here, because if none of us rent it, then they are forced to do something about it while we wait on the law that will also give us some kind of recourse. And so it's just a very awful capitalistic system that is what you said before. It's nothing but violence perpetrated on top of violence for people who are already living in violence. Right? And so just trying to figure out how to offer some reprieve to the people is a difficult thing to do. And then also trying to figure out how to get people to tend to their mental health while they're going through. And most people are like, Denise, I don't have time to think about my mental health. I got a place to stay. And so it just seems like you're in a catch-22. And it's a difficult situation to be in, but there is a way out. I do believe that through whatever we're going through, there is a way of escape. I'm just trying to find it. Yeah. And if y'all know some answers, I'm here to listen to it.
Yeah, and it's just it goes back. You mentioned the word law, policies that aren't being enacted. It bothers me when I hear our legislators talk about the quality of life. You know, that they have these bills, and at the end of almost every legislative session, one thing they like to beat their chests about is that, hey, we passed these bills to give the best quality of life to all Arkansans. And, the first thing out of my mouth is that's bullshit. Because if that was the case, then you wouldn't have a big country chateau. If that was the case, you wouldn't have people who get arrested so that they can be able to get their mental health medications, because when they're incarcerated, then they have to get they get those medications. But once they get released, they don't have the money to get it. They don't have a primary care physician, so they don't have it, and so they end up going back into the cycle of incarceration. And so if that's the case, that you're looking for the quality of life, or you're voting on laws for the quality of life for people here in the state of Arkansas, it's a funny way of showing it. And there should be some type of law. When you talk about 20 years, that big country chateau, even though it's changed names over 20 years, they have been in court over these violations, and they just can continue to be let loose. They just continue to be okay. Hey, lawyers go in and say, you know what? Hey, we'll get them fixed. Okay, see you.
I think the question for me becomes when you talk about these legislators who say we are doing this for the quality, to improve the quality of life for all Arkansans. I think the challenging question is, wait a minute, when you say all, what part of all are you talking about? Because it's clear that in this state, all doesn't mean all, right? You say all, but you mean all of the people that make up my constituency. You mean all of the people that I believe voted for me. You mean all of the people that look like me. You mean all of the people who believe like me, all of the people who live in my neighborhood, all of the people whose children go to the same. Those are the alls that you're talking about. And so how do we begin to challenge that and say, well, we need you, because when we were fighting for the hate crimes bill in Arkansas, we could not get the legislators to delineate the people, Black people in particular, for whom they wanted to protect. They were not willing to name the people who were important to them to protect in the bill. And we cannot get them to name who all is. When you say all, because it's clear to us that it doesn't mean everybody. So who are you talking about? That becomes the critical question. But at the end of the day, for me, it doesn't even matter what the answer is. We just need to vote them out. Like, these people don't have our best interest in mind. Vote them out. That's at the end of the day. When I say at the end of the day, I mean all things considered. The one recourse that we have is our vote, and it does matter.
And I want the listeners to understand this one thing. So we look at a person who's elected to the General Assembly, whether it's the House or Senate. We look at that person being elected. In fact, in any of them, we look at that person. And I always try to get them to understand it's not the person, it's the seat. See, you voted for the seat. You're voting to put somebody in that seat. But it's the seat that is important, because whoever's in that seat, whichever party that person represents, we still pay for that seat. We don't pay for the person. We pay for the seat. And so you have to understand that. And so if I'm paying for the seat, it does not matter the party. That person still works for you. And so many people, let's say you vote for a Democrat and the Democrat doesn't win and a Republican win that seat, most people say, okay, they just leave it alone. And I try to get them to understand it does not matter. Push that Republican, because that's that seat. That seat represents you. And so you have to put a voice. You have to do something. You have to push. Because at the end of the day, why pay for something that you're not going to have a voice in? Why pay for something that you're not going to try to engage with? Why pay for something? To me, it's like buying a house and you're living on the street. You're paying for a house, but you're living on the street. It does not make any sense. So we have to understand that we control that seat, not the person that's sitting. We, the people, control that seat. I call you on there.
Morning, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I can't hear you at all, Tony.
Just
let me just say this. This is old man. The purpose of an education is to promote critical thinking. So the folks in Arkansas are being educated or miseducated. They're being dumbed down so much so that people don't know what's up and what's down, or what's right and what's wrong, or what's good or what's bad, in other words, or what's best for them or what's not best for them. And I was there and I heard someone say that our governor knocked it out the park when responding to the State of the Union election. Our governor found it hateful, to be honest. No words of inclusion, no words of hope that we would all get through this together. It's as though it's blatantly known that we in Arkansas are subjugated to the will of the so-called far right, if you will. And for someone to go along with that, I'm just hoping that they're just in the dark and don't know what they're talking about. I can't believe that they would believe that this person had the interest at heart of all Arkansans, of those who are affected the most by poverty, misunderstanding, lack of attention for medical reasons, etc., lack of attention for housing, etc. To me, it's just like Arkansas is the state with the worst record, if you will, and it's always so well. And so what are you going to do to put it up? Well, it's not what I'm going to do, it's what we're going to do. Everything's going to have to be a we in this state. And I imagine most states, that's why some are successful, because they have more cohesion, more together. And until we get, when I say we, I'm talking about those who are marginalized and messed over for the most part. Until we get it together, we're not going to be able to even vote these people into out of office or into a position where they represent the interests of all our candidates. I'm going to hang up now if it's okay, because you're not able to say anything to me and I hear you. And I hope I got this message across. Thank you so much.
Yes, Matt, we heard you clearly. And I want to first, let me get this comment in from Facebook. Phyllis Brown was talking about, you said something about violence on top of violence. And she said that's the perfect description to corporal punishment in our schools. Because there was a bill that passed the other day that was spearheaded by Linda Chesterfield about who can perpetrate violence against children in our schools, who's able to do that. And so we know that the governor has now issued her education plan that she calls LEARNS, right? Arkansas LEARNS. And so when Matt talks about the governor, some people touting the governor as having knocked it out of the park in her response to Biden's State of the Union address, then I think some people are also going to have that response to this education plan, primarily because it says that teachers will start at $50,000. And so folks will just stop right there and say, oh my goodness, this is a good plan. This is great. Look at this governor doing the good work, without reading the rest of the bill, the rest of the plan, to see how it impacts us on different levels. And so we have to get to the point when Matt talks about being educated, and being educated in a way that allows us to think deeply and critically. We have to be able to nuance things. And so, yes, it may be good to say we want to make sure that teachers receive a raise and that they begin their salaries at $50,000. Yes, that's a good thing. And so let's fight for that piece of the plan. But then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that we have to fight against. And we can't just come out saying, no, that's not a good plan, or yes, it is a good plan, just on its face, without doing the work of digging deeply enough to figure out what's really happening beyond the part that you like. We tack on, we grab on to what we like and we run with it. And then we're being, on the back end of it, we are continuing to be targeted with this kind of violence that's coming through this education plan, despite the fact that there's something good about it.
And so there's a few things we have to look at what's going on here in Arkansas with Governor Sanders and her education plan and some of the executive orders she issued on the first day in office. So when you look at Sarah Sanders, you look at DeSantis in Florida, you look at Abbott in Texas, there is this national push for this conservative agenda. And when you listen to Sarah Sanders talk about what she's doing, the first thing, one of the things she always says is that this is, we want, when they talk about education, we want, this is going to be a great educational bill for those conservative Arkansan bill, or for those conservative Arkansans, this is going to be a great education bill. The same thing that DeSantis and Abbott are doing. They're pushing Sarah Sanders into the limelight on national level because she's following this. She's following what Trump wanted to do, or what the people behind Trump wanted to do. So when you look at this, when you break down, and you're right, Denise, when you look at the nuances. So people just saw that $50,000 a year, but they didn't read that, oh, it's going to be phased in. So it's not like next year, if this bill passes, that it's going to be $50,000 to these teachers. No, it's going to be phased in, which means that at any point in time,
they can come back and say, well, we thought about it. We had a good idea to phase this in, but we don't have the money to do it now. So it may not get done. Another thing, when you start looking at this learns, you're talking about it's vouchers for all students and parents. So that means that any parent, any student, you want to homeschool your child, then the money that would go to for public education, now it goes to you. It goes to you as a parent, to homeschool your child. So I don't know what the amount of money a child gets per year. So $7,000. So now you said, well, I want to homeschool my child. So we're going to give you $7,000 to homeschool your child in whatever way you want to, and then it talks about that, when you talk about any student. So now I can take my student towards a private school, but they showed this article I read a couple of weeks ago. The voucher system was initially created so that any child in a failing school could get this money and go to another school, or I think I don't know. I don't want to say private school, but I know there was Christian school,
or religious schools,
right?
Yeah.
But they found out that the majority of the students that are getting these vouchers are in failing schools, and so now you open the door for, of course, people to misuse the system to get what they want. And so when you start looking at all this, and also the one thing that Governor Sanders has done, she has put this in try to say this word, omnibus bill, which means that it's grouped all in one. Everything is in one bill. And what some of the state legislators want to do is separate this. Hey, voucher's going to be one separate bill. Teacher salary is going to be another separate, separate bill, because if you group it all at once, if you don't vote for it, they're going to say, "Oh, you're not there for teacher salaries."
Right, and so that's the strategy. Because they keep pushing the bill by emphasizing the $50,000. And so they know that people are concerned about teachers receiving more money. They're not talking about the phase-in part. They're only looking at $50,000. And so she wants that to be the selling point for the plan. And if she can sell you on that bill, then you'll vote for the $50,000, which brings in everything.
Yeah.
And so that's what we mean by nuancing. That's what we mean by reading. That's what we mean by being more thinking more deeply and critically about it. And so yes, the legislators should absolutely want them to break up the bill so that we can make sure that we're looking at each piece of it and determining its impact on all bodies. And when they say that this voucher system is supposed to work for children in failing schools, then a part of me wants to say, I think that a part of our thinking critically about it, even if you disagree after we have the critical conversation, is this something that could work for Black and brown children, for Black folks in particular? Because we know that public schools are failing our children. We know that for a fact. And if Sarah Huckabee Sanders says, well, okay, if you believe that they are failing you, we are willing to give you $7,000 to help assist you with wherever else you would like for your child to go. Are there other places, other ways, other charter schools that are doing a better job of serving our children, or could do a better job of serving our children? I think it's worth the conversation. We might land on saying, no, it's not worth it, but at least are we having a conversation? And I think that it's important for us to consider it.
And I agree that you have this conversation, but my problem, even in having a conversation, is that we already know that public money is being poured into charter schools. So now you're taking public money and pouring it into private schools or religious schools. So you're doing that. So now that traditional public school now is losing more and more money. And then when you start looking at failing schools, you also hear is people say the school is failing, the school is failing. But you don't want to look behind the scenes. And it's like the Wizard of Oz. You don't want to look behind the curtain to who pulling the strings.
And so part of looking behind the curtain, why are these schools failing? Yeah, you look at economics, you're looking at resources in the neighborhood, all those affect how students learn. If a child has to come to school every morning and they've heard gunshots all night, they've been, like they live in a big country chateau, and now they got all this violence, and now they're going to school, and you're asking them to learn. You're asking them to be, that their minds are awake and open, and they're still traumatized from everything that's going on. Never do they want to address the mitigating factors.
And that's what I'm saying. So the public schools that we have now that are where the strings, as you say, are being pulled by the system of white inhumanity, they are not willing to even address the concerns, to even acknowledge the concerns, or to even recognize the role that they play in creating the concerns. But if there's another school that we have as an option where the people look more like the students, and I know skin don't mean kin, but where the people have a trauma-informed response to what it means to be an educator, where teachers have an understanding that I have to first make sure that your basic needs are met before I can expect you to do anything on an academic level. If we have a different understanding, a different environment where there's not corporal punishment, but we have rooms where there's quiet time, where there's quiet music, and we have an opportunity for you to express yourself through art, when we have a different way of meeting them meeting the student in order to help them thrive educationally and academically, then isn't that a better place for them to go?
Yes, but to me, you could have that in a public school.
But we don't have that in most public schools.
You're right. We don't have it because they keep taking the resources out of it. And if you want to me, if you want to take what you're saying is that, from what I'm gathering, is the system is saying, you know what, we're not going to put the resources in there for you because Black, brown, poor, white, we're not going to put that resource, but we'll put it over here for this private school. And so what we want you to do is move over here into this private school. Yes.
All of that is there.
All of that is there because we're not going to put it in here.
What if it was our
and so
Then
yes.
I have been a firm believer that when it comes to Black people, Black children, the best teachers are Black teachers. The best teachers are those. Please don't get me wrong. I know there's some great white teachers, Hispanic teachers, Asian teachers. I know there's great teachers out there. But, and I'm not saying all Black teachers are good teachers, but I believe that people of the same culture, Black people who are teaching Black bodies, teaching Black children, know some of the issues that they face, know some of the things that they go through. And I think it helps teach them better, or it helps them have a better idea. It's so many little things in public schools that aren't, it's so many things in the public schools that they don't have the conversation about and how to better teach, especially when it comes to Black bodies.
So here's Phyllis Brown talking about vouchers and how this is the same strategy that fathers used a long time ago. And at the end of it, as all things considered, it's white. And so we understand. And I guess what I'm asking us to do is figure out how we can position ourselves within this system that we are forced to deal with right now because of the government that we have. While we are also working to dismantle it, yes, I know that piece is in place. We are working to fight it, to dismantle it, to burn it down, yes. But right now, it's still in effect. How do we position ourselves to fight with it as we fight against it so that we are maximizing it for the benefit of our children. And so I'm asking, is it possible that we could take those same funds that they're offering to white communities and white families, we can, because if you say all, then I can go and demand my portion of that. And then I can use it to create this environment that I know would benefit Black students in a way that they are not being benefited by this system. I'm not saying that there are not Black teachers or there are not any teachers of any cultural background that do not understand trauma-informed care. I'm not suggesting that at all, but I do know that their hands are tied by this system. So how do we free them up so that they can offer the care that we need? And perhaps it means to work within this system that gives these children an opportunity to go somewhere else. I'm just asking for us to just think about it and consider it. Even if the answer is no as a collective, I don't mind hearing that. But some of us aren't even willing to have the conversation.
Yeah, and on that point, you are right. Sometimes, a lot of us aren't willing to, a lot of people aren't willing to have that conversation. Because when I look at it, I look at where this road is leading, and if this road is leading this way, then yes, we should position ourselves as Black people to try to have our own emphasis on this road, because when it comes to public education, they see what happens with charter schools, with public charter schools. And if you privatize school, period, that's where they want to go. That's where the system wants to go, is having all public schools systems privatized, or the majority of them. So if you privatize it, then you're already making money off these children. Now it's going to really make money off these children, and it does not necessarily mean that you're going to still provide the services that these children need. And so I do agree with you on that point. Is we should have the conversation about how can we have our own entity? How can we have our own? Why can't we create our own school system? Why can't we create our own homeschool system? When you think about it, why can't Black parents get together and say, hey, we're going to homeschool, we got a building, we got a house, we're going to make sure that we have all the requirements. Hey, we take that $7,000 and we can pour it into our own children. We can teach our own children. So I think that's an idea. That's a viable idea, that if it's going to be given, let's go ahead and get our share of it, and we teach our own kids.
And I think when you talk about a road, a journey, one of the things that frustrates me about the conversations I'm having in the Black circles in which I navigate, I'm not saying all Black circles, but the ones I'm in, is that we get fixed on an idea and we want to ride it out forever and ever and always. And I feel like when we talk about these journeys, if I think about it like a highway, there's always an exit.
Yes.
There's always a way that we can reroute. And I love GPS now, because when I get off, when I accidentally go the wrong way, it will simply say, I'm rerouting you. I know you've taken a wrong turn, but it's okay. I'm going to get you on the path to where you want to go. And if we would begin to think about things in a more flexible way, so we could say, yes, since we have this governor in office for these 4 years, here's going to be our 4-year plan. We can always make a different plan when we have a different governor in place. We don't have to say this is what we're going to do forever and ever and always, but we can say for now, this is the best choice for us to make, understanding that we need to be pliable in our strategies, so that even now when we think about 4 years, in 2 years we're going to be thinking about 6 years, so we can always be moving and shaking to do the things that we need to do to benefit our community, instead of feeling like we're stuck. No, this is the way it's supposed to be. One of the things I hated most about being a pulpit pastor is when I would offer new and initiatives, they would say, it's odd to them to say, it is a way, there is a different way. What does my best friend say all the time? There are multiple right ways of doing something. And I feel like that has to be part of the conversation as well. We've got to get out of this mindset that whatever it is that we decide to do, we're going to do it for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, because a detour doesn't always mean a bad thing.
It just takes you around.
It just takes
still
you,
gets you back on your path.
Yeah, it just takes you around. And so that's one of the hardest things to get people to understand is that when you see a sign, and right now when I mentioned earlier about this is the road, this is where this is going, you can actually look at it as a sign that says under construction.
This road that white inhumanity wants to get you, wants to build, is under construction. And so if we know it's under construction, and instead of just sitting there waiting for it to be constructed, it's a hold up. Let me go around this. Let me see if there's another way around this where I don't have to wait. In fact, if I can get around it before they construct it, now they have to run into me because I'm constructing something else. And so now it's going to be reversed, because now when they get to that point where we have started our construction, we're going to have our sign under construction. And so we just have to come together and figure out, how do we get around what they're trying to accomplish, what they're trying to construct, and the road that they want us on. Because once that road, and you are right about this, once that road gets constructed, then a lot of times we stay on that road. I hear people talk about that they don't know how to, if 6:30 is jammed, they sit there because they don't know. Hey, I can get off. I can go down Fairfax Park. I can go down right Avenue. I can go around. But they're so used to being on that road, and they feel like this is the only way to go, instead of saying, you know what, it has to be alternative routes.
I want to get this comment, and somebody sent me a message about in response to what Mac said, when Mac was talking about a person who embraced Sarah Huckabee Sanders' response to Biden, said that maybe he was talking about Kristen Nelson, who's the co-host on Pat Rogers' Ward show. Do you think that's who he was talking about? So maybe because said that Kristen verbally wrapped his arms around Sarah Sanders and embraced her speech before the State of the Union address. Are you aware of that? Mac, is that who we're talking about? We're trying to figure out. Well, Mac usually doesn't like to name names, but I'm all about naming names. I'm all about, if we're gonna hold people accountable, how you gonna hold them accountable without calling their name. And so I don't mind, because sometimes that becomes the problem. We want to tiptoe around everything, and then we don't get it done because we're not being direct in our conversation. And so sometimes we need to call a name, because somebody needs to call this person in, not call them out, but call them in. Because if this is the person, we need to sit down. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk. Let me figure out where your head is. Let me figure out what you're thinking. Let me figure out what road you're on, and to help you see that there's a way around this road that you're on that will lead you to the path that you really want to go, and not get stuck in this direction.
And I don't know if it was him or not. The name, yes, I can. You can kind of make assumptions in different things. Not these Pat Ward's. Pat. A Republican conservative show, so that might be it. One thing that I've heard so many people say, and this how this is why sometimes you have to look at people and just tilt your head, that we should be proud as Arkansans that we have a female governor for the first time. That we have, it's like we have stepped out of the backwoods and we're not barefoot anymore, and we're not country bumpkins. That, we have someone who's been on a national stage, in DC, and now we have this.
If they feel like that, why didn't they vote for Hillary Clinton? Because I bet the people you're talking to do not. So this really isn't about gender. You use these things as distractions.
Yes.
You use these things to try to get us to get on your point. You know, again, these are your selling points. And because you think that we are so shallow in our thinking, going back to what Max said about being educated so that you can think critically, this ain't about no gender. I don't care the gender of the person. The person, as far as I'm concerned, could be no gender, gender fluid, gender non-binary. I'm concerned about the legislation that you are putting forth, and the violence that you are perpetrating on my community. I don't care who you are. It doesn't matter to me your race, gender identity, sexual orientation. You are violent, and I did not vote for you, and you should not be in office.
And like I said, that's why, you just have to tilt your head at people when those comments come out about her. But at the end of the day, she is doing what right and humanity does. It's going to look out for.
Well, we need to talk about that. We need to talk about this system that's called ALEC, this organization where they use these templates, and they use this template and they pitch them to all of the Republican states, and they just try to figure out which ones will pass. And so once it passes, it becomes a precedent. So when you talked about Abbott, when you talked about DeSantis in Florida, Abbott in Texas, and now you're talking about Sarah Huckabee, she just got a template. She got a whole bunch of templates. All she has to do is put her name in Arkansas and push the template. That's how they work, because they have an agenda. The question we keep coming back to is, what is our agenda? What is the Black agenda? What is the Democrat agenda? Whatever it is, whatever organization or group you feel like you associate or affiliated with, what is it that you want to do, and how are we moving that forward?
Hey, it was a great show. We got to get out of here. Remember, we're still in the pledge drive. Make sure you give your donation or your pledge as soon as you can. Also, tune in Monday for me and Bill down with that next Tuesday for Community Voices, and next Thursday is going to be that Health Corner. So everybody have a great day. Listen, if you can, get out to the state capitol. If you can, call your senator, call your representative, voice your opinion. Remember, you pay for that seat, no matter what that person does in it. Hey, y'all have a great day. See you.